plan on going back to UFC.
You do?
If they'll have me, I would like to go back and fucking whoop someone's ass there.
Well, who would you want to if it was offered? Justin Gaethje, it sounds like.
I'm not fighting at 55 though, but right now I'm not fighting in there because there's nobody to fight really. It's kind of slow rolling.
I feel like UFC would.
I don't really have a name in mind right now in the UFC. That's why I'm not there right now. Otherwise,
but the name, the draw, the excitement that you would bring to it, I feel like it's really lacking in UFC. Everybody's
that's
rushing, everybody's
I would
wrestling.
be there if there was somebody that I wanted to go fight. But
I want to see the rubber match with Conor McGregor.
with time for sure. Yeah, whenever he's back. Me and him for sure got unfinished.
If there's another fight that would sell and that would be huge, it would be that. It would be Diaz 3.
Oh, yeah.
That could be, especially if Diaz gets past Poirier.
Yes.
Even if he doesn't. I mean, just that fight alone. I mean, there's the history between those two guys. I mean, that would be...
And it's so appealing stylistically as well, the fight, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a grappler at heart. I love grappling. But I also understand that a jiu-jitsu tournament will put people to sleep, you know. Even if you're into jiu-jitsu, it's hard to watch a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Yes.
But anybody can see a punch hitting someone in the head and them falling down. That's, you know, that's exciting. And him and Diaz is such a great personality matchup. It's such a great skill clash. You know, if I was to design somebody that's going to bring the best out of corner, you'd want someone that, you know, can hit back and take a big shot and put up at the trash. It's a beautiful fight. I would love to see that rematch.
Yeah, the thing about Diaz when they first fought was that he didn't give a fuck about trash talk. It didn't bother him at all. It was...
Everyone heard Nate Diaz crack the door open, like unfinished business snapping awake. Diaz lifts the White House card, finger locked on Conor McGregor, daring memory itself to blink. There's no calm, only chaos, history, and a rivalry still bleeding underground. No legacy lap, no belts, no mercy. This moment exists to remind us what erupts when bad blood meets attention, a collision meant to scar, not flatter headlines.
That Conor McGregor is being talked to headline the White House card. I don't buy it. I can't buy it. Why are we be turning to Conor McGregor? And the answer is also out there because he is the sport's biggest star. That is true. So is that what you need? If you've got the open checkbook and you've got the magic wand, without saying names, do you say, I'm going to put as my main event the sport's biggest star? Is that your answer? Does it matter who he's fighting? What if it's a championship match? If you have an open checkbook and you have a magic wand and you don't use any names, but you're going to put the championship on, would you say heavyweight? Would you say women's 135? Would you say wherever Kazmat Chimaev's at? Like, how is it that you would answer that question? And then what if you're really going to go for a big fight? What if you really follow this for a long time? You're going to do what we used to call a super fight, but now we call it title versus title. You're going to take the champion of a weight class and you're going to put them with another champion.
Nate Diaz didn't dodge the question or dress it up. When the White House card surfaced, only one name burned through the noise, and it was Conor McGregor. No theatrics, no sales pitch, no polite alternatives, just the blunt reality that nothing else carries weight if it isn't McGregor standing across from him. Diaz is locked in. The fans are restless. And that third chapter isn't being negotiated or approved. It's hovering in the shadows, waiting for the precise second to strike, with everyone involved already understanding exactly why it has never truly gone away.
Last thing, White House card, like you said, you want Conor McGregor.
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE, so
right.
It's like, at least that's happening and it's getting something to talk about, something to watch, and I'm looking forward to that fight actually.
Now fans want it.
Devontae and Paul should be good, and then because what else are you looking forward to? Hurry up.
Nothing.
Hurry up. What else?
If it's not you, McGregor, Ryan, it's nobody.
So it's good. It's good.
Now fans want you versus McGregor 3. Do you want that fight?
Yeah, for sure.
White House?
Yeah, one time. We'll see what happens.
Without ever slamming the door shut, Dana White splashed cold water across the trilogy talk, cooling it just enough to keep it from igniting. He framed time as the real weapon here, reminding everyone that a single year in this sport can flip the entire board upside down, especially with McGregor teasing a return and Diaz openly circling the idea. Any certainty right now is hollow, because cards reshuffle, champions vanish, and priorities mutate without warning. By the next 4th of July, the landscape could be unrecognizable, stripped of today's assumptions. The idea isn't dead, not buried, just hovering in limbo. In other words, it's alive, breathing, and dangerous, just not ready to be carved into ink yet.
Conor McGregor said he's back in the pool. Diaz said he would love to be the opponent. Are you interested in that trilogy?
That fight's a year away. Landscape will change so much by next 4th of July. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's going to be on the card? What the main event will be, or who will hold all the titles? Everything could be completely different, so it's not even worth thinking about it.
In sharp contrast to Dana White's cautious wait-and-see posture, Michael Bisping zoomed out and locked onto the endgame. If Nate Diaz ever steps back into the frame and Conor McGregor truly follows through on a return, Bisping sees zero hesitation, zero debate. That is the fight, every single time. Their rivalry already sits near the peak of UFC history, charged with chaos, ego, and unfinished damage. Dropping that matchup onto a White House card wouldn't just elevate the show, it would instantly define the scale of the entire event, especially when stacked beside other blockbuster clashes at the top. But for Bisping, the reasoning cuts deeper than hype or promotion. McGregor doesn't need another fight, another payday, or another headline, yet fighting never really releases you. That itch, that gravitational pull toward one more moment, one more statement, one more win, keeps dragging him back. And because of that, his presence on a card that historic doesn't feel speculative or hopeful, it feels like a slow burn certainty, waiting for the right spark to make it unavoidable.
See it if Nate Diaz was to come back. But if he was, and if Conor McGregor does actually make it back, I think that's the fight to make all day long. The one-on-one, there were some of the biggest fights in UFC history. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor at the White House would be absolutely insane. It probably will have Tom Aspinall versus John Jones in the main event. It probably will have Conor McGregor versus someone, Michael Chandler or Nate Diaz, in the co-main event. So that just kind of sets the tone for how big that card would be. What do you think? Do you think Conor McGregor will actually make it back? Of course, he hasn't fought since 2021, right? It's going to be 5 years since he last fought. I, for one, fair play to the guy. Fair play, man. Respect. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to come back. He's got lots of other avenues and ways to make money. But fighting is something that never leaves you, okay? It's a part of who you are. It's in your DNA. It's part of your soul. And he wants to come back and he wants to get his hands raised in victory. Of course, he wants to come back and be a part.
Bisping then pulled the camera back even farther, abandoning rivalry and zeroing in on raw spectacle. If the discussion is truly about super fights that rattle the entire sport and reset its gravity, he pointed straight to Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira as the matchup that towers over everything else. Pereira's meteoric rise, his magnetic star power, and what he has already carved out across divisions make the idea feel almost unreal, like something torn from a different era. And if Pereira were to somehow defeat Jones, Bisping argued, it would cement a legacy so extreme, so untouchable, that no one else has ever even brushed against it. Yet he didn't let the fantasy float unchecked. He snapped it back to reality. McGregor versus Chandler still sits as the expected path, the plan everyone assumes will unfold. But the moment politics, influence, and personal relationships start bleeding into the equation, even the most carefully mapped routes can warp. In this sport, certainty is fragile, and what looks inevitable today can bend, twist, or collapse the second power shifts behind the scenes.
If we're talking about super fights, if we're talking about something that's really going to get the MMA world excited, then it would be Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira, right? Alex Pereira is one of the biggest stars. He came back in style and destroyed Magomed Ankalaev. The man's phenomenal. He's unbelievable. He's a two-weight division champion. What he's achieved in this sport is ridiculous. If he was to face Jon Jones and if he was to beat him, then I guess he would go on and fight for the third belt, and that'd be it. That'd be set in stone. Alex Pereira would, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, be the greatest mixed martial artist to ever compete. Simple as that. There's no one that's fought for 3 belts or won 3 belts. Just the thought of that alone is crazy. I mean, it took me about, 26 fights in the UFC to even get 1 title shot. So they're not easy to come by. Anyway, so there's that. Now they're talking about Conor McGregor fighting Michael Chandler. That's going to be the fight that happens. We all know about that. There's nothing new there. And the thing is, if Donald Trump wants it, if the president of the United States wants it, and as Eric says in that video, him and Dana.
The MMA guru pulled everything back to timing and context, anchoring it firmly in the fan's point of view. He stressed that the fight worth watching next depends entirely on Nate Diaz actually returning and making a loud, undeniable statement with a major win in the welterweight division. Only then does a trilogy with McGregor ignite into something truly dangerous and worthy of a White House stage. For now, the hardcore base feels divided, torn between names like Masvidal or Glover Teixeira. Yet beneath the surface, many voices, including Ariel Helwani and others, are quietly drifting toward the same conclusion. Diaz versus McGregor is still lurking as the next true marquee matchup, waiting for the moment when timing finally snaps into place.
That's not the fight I want to see next, okay? If Nate Diaz comes back and gets a big win over someone in the welterweight division, okay? And he does it impressively, and then the McGregor fight happens, that's when I'm interested. But right now, I feel like the hardcore fans are kind of in mutual agreement that it's Masvidal or Gaethje. To us, it's kind of Masvidal or Gaethje, and for Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani to both say that they think Nate Diaz trilogy should be next is strange to me. Very strange to me. Because I would love to see either Gaethje or Masvidal. I feel like everyone's in agreement here. We've seen that Donald Cerrone has been beaten by Conor McGregor in his return at UFC.
On the other hand, Chael Sonnen sliced through the noise surrounding McGregor headlining a White House card with deliberate skepticism. He acknowledged that McGregor remains the biggest star the sport has ever produced, but made it clear that fame alone doesn't automatically crown you as the right main event. Sonnen broke down the logic like a chessboard with unlimited pieces. If you truly had every option available, would you lead with a championship fight, a heavyweight collision, a women's 135 title bout, or a true super fight with belts on both sides? His argument wasn't dismissive, it was surgical. Star power absolutely matters, but it isn't the final answer. The real question is whether that star power translates into a matchup that genuinely shifts gravity, commands attention beyond name recognition, and delivers something that actually moves the needle instead of just lighting it up for a moment.
That Conor McGregor is being talked to headline the White House card. I don't buy it. I can't buy it. Why are we would be turning to Conor McGregor? And the answer is also out there because he is the sport's biggest star. That is true. So is that what you need? If you've got the open checkbook and you've got the magic wand, without saying names, do you say, I'm going to put as my main event the sport's biggest star? Is that your answer? Doesn't matter who he's fighting. What if it's a championship match? If you have an open checkbook and you have a magic wand and you don't use any names, but you're going to put the championship on, would you say heavyweight? Would you say women's 135? Would you say wherever Kazmat Chimaev's at? Like, how is it that you would answer that question? And then what if you're really going to go for a big fight? What if you really follow this for a long time? You're going to do what we used to call a super fight, but now we call it title versus title. You're going to take the champion of a weight class and you're going to put them with another champion.
Sonnen continued by breaking down why the McGregor chatter starts to feel shaky the deeper you look. Pencil him in for mid-2025, on a card supposedly landing sometime in 2026, at a venue that doesn't yet exist, with tickets that aren't even imagined, and the whole thing begins to bend credibility. The timeline stretches too far, the assumptions stack too high. His real issue was structural. If McGregor isn't a champion, or even hovering near title contention, then centering him means the biggest star on the card isn't fighting for a belt. And that creates friction. A non-title McGregor headlining a once-in-a-generation, historic event muddies the message. It becomes harder to sell bigger than big when the face of the night isn't chasing gold, even if two other championships are on the line.
And it's one of the reasons that I'm struggling with the idea that McGregor is being penciled in the middle of 2025 for a card that sits dead center in the middle of 2026 at a venue yet to be built for tickets that are yet to be on sale. I struggle with it because we're openly saying if we're going to put Conor on there that there's no title. Unless you believe that Conor McGregor is going to demote himself, right? The biggest draw should be the main event. Your biggest star, regardless of belt, should be the main event. But in this case, if our biggest draw and our biggest star is not a champion or a contender in any weight class, we're going to acknowledge up front that our biggest show will not contain a title, which makes it a little difficult down the road to go, this show's bigger than big. In fact, we got two titles up. Yes, you heard me. There's 2 titles. When can you ever get that? And nothing more important than a title.
And then Ben Askren detonated a curveball straight into Nate Diaz's legacy. He claimed Diaz, despite the hype and fan devotion, was essentially an average fighter who somehow convinced the world he was elite. Citing a modest UFC record and uneven results beyond it, Askren painted Diaz's reputation as perception overpowering performance, a myth sustained by attitude more than achievement. He even suggested that saying this out loud would invite a social media firestorm. Love him or despise him, Askren's blunt assessment is guaranteed to ignite arguments and fracture opinion across the MMA landscape.
Listen, Nate Diaz, he is the most puzzling. He's not. I don't even think he's that good. I'll go get his record if you want me to. But he has convinced people he is good at fighting somehow, some way.
He's pretty good.
I'm gonna go get his damn record, Daniel. It's not.
But he won the Ultimate Fighter. He won the Ultimate Fighter. I'm saying he was good for the time that he was fighting.
No, he wasn't. He was average.
He was, yeah, okay. I'm just
okay.
trying.
I'm gonna go get the record. I'm gonna go get the record. They're gonna yell at me. I know this. Okay, let's see. Well, his record is 21-13.
Oh my God, really?
Yes, that's not that great.
Okay, I take it back. I'm taking it back.
And he was and going into the UFC, he was, I think it was 5-1. So within the UFC, he was 16-12.
That's not good.
That's not very good.
That's not good. There's really no way to twist that into good.
Yeah. So but you know, his personality, and that's another one's like, how did his personality catch on? And he says funny things sometimes. He's a little bit different. He, you know, I don't know. Yeah. And listen, if you post this clip, please don't post this clip because the Diaz army will attack.
On the debate over who belongs on a White House card, Daniel Cormier injected a dose of realism into the Jon Jones heavyweight chatter, noting that while Jones moving up is tantalizing, his prime work and the matchup fans truly crave still lies at light heavyweight, with a potential clash against Alex Pereira at 205 stealing the spotlight. Cormier acknowledged Jones's added bulk but argued that trimming back to 205 is still achievable, keeping the dream fight alive and pulsing. Meanwhile, John Onik mapped out his vision with a blend of practicality and fan service, suggesting the main event feature the heavyweight championship, likely Tom Aspinall defending against Cyril Gane, while admitting the Jones vs. Pereira buzz remains uncertain. For the co-main, he penciled in a bantamweight title bout between Petr Yan and Marlon Vera, hoping that by June 14th fans could witness 4 or 5 undisputed belts contested on the White House lawn, a truly historic spectacle if it all materializes. Brendan Schaub went even further, laying out a dream card stacked with names like Arman Tsarukyan, Islam Makhachev, Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira, and Jon Jones, topped by McGregor vs. Diaz, calling it the kind of lineup worth paying premium to watch. He didn't stop at the main event, even prelims featuring Gable Stevenson and Bo Nickel, with Michael Chandler locked in, would be must-see bouts, crafting a card so explosive it could redefine fan expectations. Contrasting that, Henry Cejudo zeroed in on the biggest potential fights, choosing Jones vs. Aspinall over Pereira, Anahachi, or McGregor vs. Chandler, citing not just rankings but symbolism, the 250th U.S. birthday, a clash of legacies, greatest of all time versus present force, a defining centerpiece. So, what's your take? Will Nate Diaz step back in for McGregor, or is Conor eyeing a new challenger? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for all the latest updates. You won't want to miss a moment of this unfolding drama.